A lot of people just watch the UFC, but I'm about to show you how you can make money while watching it. They say the house always wins, but that actually relates to roulette and table games only, not to sports betting. And in this video, I'm gonna show you how you can beat the house at their own game. We've got a big UFC pay-per-view going down this weekend, and in this video, I'm gonna go through every single fight on the card and give you my betting breakdown and predictions for the entire fight card. Welcome to the UFC 321 edition of the lucrative MMA betting show. This week, the UFC is back in Abu Dhabi, and we have a banger fight card that I'm going to talk to you about today. We have Tom Aspinall taking on Cyril Gane for the heavyweight championship of the world. We've also got another title fight in Virna Jandiroba, rematching Mackenzie Dern for the UFC strawweight belt. Aleksandar Volkov is on this card, taking on grappling phenom Jailton Almeida. We got Aleksandar Rakic on the card, Umar Nurmagomedov bouncing back off his title loss to Bautista is on the card, and I'm going to speak to you about every single fight and give you predictions on every single fight, the main card, the prelims, all of that. So run the intro and let's get into the damn show. So welcome back to another show, lads. I'm very excited to be here. Very excited to continue our 10-week undefeated streak in the VIP. I am recording this video before UFC Vancouver, so I cannot give results for that event. But before that event, we're heading into that event 10 weeks undefeated. And we're looking to do the same this week. It's been a crazy year, a hell of a year. And like I said at the start, boys, the house always wins is not factual. The house always wins, as I said, is actually only related to table games, and not even all table games. In roulette, the house always wins. In poker, the house always wins because they take rake, but the player can win as well. The slot machine, the house always wins because they take a percentage of all the money that's put in there. But in sports betting, it is a little bit different. Yes, the house most likely will win most of the time, but not against everybody. The house wins against 99.9% of gamblers. Just luckily though, I'm in the 0.1% that actually wins. And I'm not just talking that. This is factual because I have a third-party tracked record, unlike 99.9% of other cappers or predictors in the game. So we're going to try and continue the undefeated streak here. We're going to try and continue to our record, and we're going to try to once again take the money from the bookies. And we're going to start off by going into the first true title fight that Tom Aspinall has ever been in. We have Tom Aspinall taking on Cyril Gane for the UFC heavyweight championship of the world. And Tom's last two fights were actually for the interim belt. So this is the first time he's fighting for the undisputed heavyweight title. Tom Aspinall coming into this fight with a record of 15 wins, 3 losses. Cyril Gane, on the other hand, has a record of 13 wins and 2 losses. Currently, they have Tom Aspinall as the minus 370 favorite, with the underdog price tag on Cyril Gane coming back at plus 295. This is a very intriguing fight to me, guys. Very intriguing fight because on the one hand, I feel like Tom Aspinall may be the greatest heavyweight fighter we've ever seen. But on the other hand, I've only seen him go into round 2 once in his UFC career. Every single other fight has been in round 1, you know? So it's tough for me to outright say that, because I need to see him go into the later rounds. But at the moment, he doesn't need to go into the later rounds because he finishes everybody early. You know, even the fight that did go into round 2 against Andrei Arlovski, he finished it a couple minutes into round 2. A very good double leg into instant rear naked choke into insta-tap, right? So he must have some squeeze, and, you know, Arlovski tapped very quick there. So it's tough because I can't give him maybe the credit that he deserves because I haven't seen him proven in later rounds. The one time he did go into a late round, way back in the day, talking like 10 years ago, he did get finished there, he did tire out. But can you really punish a man for finishing everybody in the first round? Obviously I can't, right? Cyril Gane, on the other hand, he has had a very different career in the UFC. You know, he's suffered a lot of losses, a lot of title losses as well. Cyril Gane first fought for the UFC interim title against Derek Lewis in a fight that he won with ease. He then fought Francis Ngannou for the undisputed title, and he lost that fight. He lost that fight on a couple of bad decisions, in the grappling later on in the fight. He was 2-0 up going into round 3. He was cruising. You know, he was outclassing Francis Ngannou on the feet. He was making him look very amateur on the feet, and then he started tiring out, and then he started getting wrestled. He started getting grappled. And in the 5th round, he made a terrible mistake. It looked like he dropped for a heel hook. Still, to this day, I can't really determine whether it was a drop for a heel hook or it was a sweep set up by Ngannou. But whatever, he made some bad decisions overall in that fight in the grappling, and it cost him the fight. You know, he ended up losing round 3, round 4, and round 5 to somebody in the grappling who wasn't known for grappling at all and wasn't known for cardio at all. So that was a big red flag for Cyril Gane, you know, and it really exposed his grappling and fight IQ after looking almost flawless coming into that fight. He then fought for the title again just a year later against Jon Jones, and he got finished in round 1, again exposing some of his grappling holes. Jon Jones, one of the best fighters all time, but Jon Jones never had run through anybody like that before, at least not at this level. So that wasn't a good look for Cyril Gane either, right? And like I said, more grappling holes shown. He now fights again for the title for a 4th time against Tom Aspinall. Will his grappling holes show themselves to still be there after they've shown themselves to be there throughout the entirety of his career? Well, I want to rewind one fight back from this upcoming fight, which was his last fight against Aleksandar Volkov. And in that fight, once again, Cyril Gane's grappling holes were shown to still be there against somebody, again, who is basically an out-and-out striker, just like Francis Ngannou was. And he actually got awarded a win in that fight. They gave the decision to Cyril Gane, and I think it's one of the worst decisions I've ever seen. I bet on Cyril Gane in that matchup. That was a bad bet from me. I hold my hands up. I'm not a perfect guy. I make bad bets. You make bad bets. We all make bad bets, right? It doesn't matter who you are. You're not immune to bad bets. It's like if you're a boxer. We all throw bad punches. Even Terence Crawford finds himself off balance and, you know, gets tagged up by the likes of Nurmagomedov and other fighters in his career as well. It doesn't matter how good you are. You make mistakes, right? So that was a massive mistake from me to bet on Cyril Gane. And it was a lot of mistakes that Cyril Gane made, right, in the octagon. But like I said, no matter how good you are, you make mistakes. The issue is, if you keep making the same mistakes over and over and over again over a 5-year period, you have to question whether that fighter has actually gotten any better, improved, or will improve in the future. The mistakes that I saw Cyril Gane make against Aleksandar Volkov were the same mistakes he was making against Francis Ngannou. It's dropping down for heel hooks at the wrong time. It's playing from guard for too long of a time. It's holding on to the Kimura in round 3 when you're 1-1 going into round 3, and you hold on to a Kimura grip for 3 minutes, end up staying on bottom, lose the round convincingly because of that, and get awarded a judge's split decision robbery, you know, and I will use the term robbery. It was a clear win for Volkov. Volkov won round 2 clear, and round 3 was the clearest round of the entire fight. Not because Volkov did anything amazing in round 3, but because Cyril Gane got taken down, and he held on to this Kimura grip for 3 minutes. Like I said, terrible fight IQ. And boys, that's in his very last fight, right? I don't think he shored up his grappling at all. I've even seen some training footage where he's kind of getting ragdolled to some degree by Nurmagomedov, who is a middleweight. It's just not things I like to see. You know, so going into this fight, I think the tail of the fight is going to be, is he going to be able to defend the grappling attacks of Tom Aspinall? Tom Aspinall is not a grappler, right? Like, this guy is an MMA fighter, but he mainly knocks people out. Tom Aspinall is probably the most dangerous fighter on planet Earth right now, not named Francis Ngannou, right? And even compared to Francis Ngannou, he just might be more dangerous because he can also submit you, whereas Francis, for the most part, has to knock you out. You know, Aspinall's a lot more well-rounded than Francis. Who's more dangerous? You can go and debate in the comments. I don't really know. If he's not number 1, Tom Aspinall, he's number 2, right? So yeah, of course he can catch Cyril Gane on the feet, but I think we need to look at the grappling in this fight. Is he going to be able to take him down? Is he going to be able to submit him? From everything I've seen from Tom Aspinall, he's got the grappling attacks to defeat Cyril Gane in this fight. If you go back and watch his fight with Andrei Arlovski, very, very powerful rugby-type double leg in round 2, instantly to the submission. If you go back and watch his fight against Aleksandar Volkov, an amazing performance. Walks Volkov down, catches him with beautiful 1-2s, beats him up on the feet badly, takes him down with a very solid body lock trip takedown. And it's interesting because I had to go back and rewatch that fight because in my head, he just double-legged him twice, but he didn't do that. The first takedown wasn't a double leg, it was a body lock. And then he tripped him instantly with a body lock. It's not that the takedown was so good. It was just the fluidity of the takedown. As soon as he had the body lock, he stepped to the side, he stepped round, he put his leg round, he put his leg over and tripped him to the ground. It was very good weight distribution. And it was just, you could tell that guy has repped that like a million times, you know, because it was almost instant. After seeing that fight against Volkov, and Arlovski, as I mentioned, he took Volkov down with ease, butchered him on the ground badly, landing big elbows, cut his skull. He was bleeding from the head. Volkov did manage to get back up, took a beautiful knee by Tom Aspinall for his troubles, but he did manage to get back up, so shout out to him. And then he got taken down again. Again, it looked like Tom was in the Matrix there. You know, Volkov threw a head kick. he stepped back and he moved out of the way of the head kick. And then he came forward, went underneath, took him down, and then he straight armbarred him, right? He tried the Kimura earlier in the round and he couldn't get it. That's what allowed Volkov to get back up to his feet. But then he did finish the straight arm lock after that. So something I want to mention about this fight is that since it's taking place in Abu Dhabi, we need to see how the fighters are going to perform in that region. So I can confirm that Tom Aspinall 3 days ago put out on his Instagram that he's still in the UK and that he's having his last sparring session before going to UAE, right? But I know that Cyril Gane has been in the UAE for almost 1 month now. So Cyril Gane's going to have a massive advantage acclimatizing to the country a lot faster than Tom Aspinall. Cyril Gane's been in Abu Dhabi for ages and he's working with Puya Rahmani, one of the best grapplers in the world. Rug, very, very solid physical guy as well, good takedowns, and Hamdi Abdel Wahab, who's on this card, but also a very good grappler himself, a good wrestler, right? So he's got some great training partners specifically for the grappling, and he should be acclimatized to the UAE. Tom, on the other hand, good training partners himself, Modestas Bukauskas, Ante Delia, two solid UFC level guys. Mick Parkin is over there. Martin Budai is over there as well. So good training partners himself, but he's not acclimatized as much as Cyril Gane is. Let's touch on the striking quickly though, right? Because at the end of the day, I do think that Aspinall has the grappling skills to take him down and probably submit him, but let's say it doesn't happen. Who's going to win the striking? I think Tom Aspinall's a much dangerous striker. I think Tom Aspinall's a sharper striker. I think he has more power. I think he has better distance management offensively, but worse distance manage defensively. I think Cyril Gane is one of the best strikers in the division, and I expect Cyril Gane to win the striking exchanges after 7.5 minutes. The first 7.5 minutes is going to be struggle for Cyril Gane. Obviously, he can have success. Like I said, he's one of the best strikers in the division. Technically, he's better than Tom Aspinall, in my opinion. He's got more weapons than Tom Aspinall as well. Cyril Gane has the head kicks, has the step-in knees, has the elbows, has the clinch strikes, has the 1-2s, has the leg kicks, has the body kicks, has the teeps. Tom Aspinall doesn't have that wide toolbox at all, right? Tom Aspinall is mainly a boxer with good leg kicks. He doesn't really have too much outside of that. Not that he needs it in the heavyweight division, but you get what I'm trying to say. But I just feel like the speed and power of Tom Aspinall is going to lead to him winning some of the striking exchanges, maybe even getting a knockout in the first round. But I do feel like if this fight gets into round 2, 3, 4, and 5, I think Cyril Gane's going to take over. I have to give Cyril Gane some advantage in the cardio. We've seen him go a hard 5 rounds before. We've seen him tire out but push through. We just haven't seen it from Aspinall. It doesn't mean it's not there. Tom Aspinall might have elite cardio, right? It is possible. But one, he's a heavyweight, right? So most of these guys don't have elite cardio. 2, whenever I have seen him go late, he has looked to be tiring out, right? 3, his style is very power and speed based, meaning usually that style depletes your energy systems quicker. So if you put all of those 3 things into the pot, I have to believe that Cyril Gane has actually a big cardio advantage in this fight. It's just, can he survive 7.5 minutes with someone like Tom Aspinall, the most dangerous finisher on the planet, more dangerous than Francis Ngannou, as equally as dangerous on the feet, maybe not, but just a little bit less, but way more dangerous on the ground. So it's like, I don't think he can, personally. But if he does, Cyril Gane's going to be live here. Cyril Gane could be a good live betting angle here, but ultimately I'm going to pick Tom Aspinall because he has massive advantage early in the power and speed, but also in the grappling and mainly in the grappling. I predict a Tom Aspinall submission in this fight, or a ground and pound finish from top position in the very first round. In the next fight on the card, we have Virna Jandiroba taking on Mackenzie Dern for the UFC vacant strawweight championship of the world. Virna Jandiroba coming into this fight with a record of 22 wins, only 3 losses. Mackenzie Dern, on the other hand, 15 wins with 5 losses. Currently, they have Virna Jandiroba as the very slight favourite at -115, with the underdog price tag on Mackenzie Dern coming back at -105. So boys, this is almost a good old-fashioned pick'em. It's basically a pick'em. What I mean by pick'em is -110 on either side in the bookies' betting odds. And basically all that means is that the bookies don't know who's going to win the fight. The market doesn't know, the bookies don't know. They're saying it's a 50-50 fight, but they're taking a bit of vig. But they're saying it's a 50-50 fight, right? And to be honest, man, it seems very close to me. Like, if you go back and watch their first fight, because this is a rematch, boys. If you go back and watch their first fight, you will see that that fight was extremely close. With 1 or 2 minutes left on the clock, I thought the fight could go either way. Mackenzie Dern came out there throwing hammers, looking like the much stronger fighter, the much better boxer, the girl with willing to push the pace a lot more, the pressure fighter, and that won her round 1 clean. But Virna Jandiroba started to get a groove in round 2, started to use her kicks, which negated some of Mackenzie Dern's boxing attacks that she was using in the first round. And Virna Jandiroba did well in that realm and used some knees and clinch attacks and stuff like that. And she even ended up having some slight success in the grappling, and she ended up winning that round, right? So round 3, it was a very close round. It was all to play for, and Mackenzie Dern just pulled it out the bag, but only just. I mean, it was still a very close fight, right? And the bookies are saying it's going to be the same again. And I tend to agree that it's going to be a close fight, but the difference here is that the fight's 5 rounds, right? And the difference here is that this is 5 years on. That was 2020, COVID times, right? This is 2025. In my opinion, both girls have improved. Clearly, we see Mackenzie Dern has improved basically everywhere, and Virna Jandiroba has improved basically everywhere. I think that Mackenzie Dern has clearly improved in the striking, out there with Jason Perillo working on her boxing. You know, I think the Virna Jandiroba fight was one of her first fights with Jason Perillo, and I believe that, you know, nowadays we see Mackenzie Dern fighting behind a jab at times, you know, keeping her hands up at all times. I'm not saying she's the best striker of all time, but if you go back and watch one of her most recent fights with Lupi Godinez, and then you compare that to the fight at a full Virna Jandiroba, I think there's a clear improvement in the boxing, clear improvement in the striking, and even clear improvement in the wrestling. As I said, still not a great wrestler, still not a great striker, but she's definitely improved there heavily. I think what Virna Jandiroba has done is she's very, very clearly developed her ground game, her top control, and her wrestling. It was always good. It was also always the best aspect of her game. But in my opinion, it's a lot better now than when they first fought. A very interesting thing is that when they first fought, Virna Jandiroba didn't really go to the ground with Mackenzie Dern. She went to the ground with her twice. One of those times she basically got swept from a leg lock position, but the round ended. But there was a lot of times in that fight where she didn't go into Mackenzie Dern's guard, even though she had the chance to do it. You know, Mackenzie Dern at times was on her back. Mackenzie Dern at times pulled guard. And it looked like Virna Jandiroba didn't really want to go in guard. I feel like that might change it. I feel like Mackenzie Dern is so dangerous that people are kind of scared to go in a guard like Charles Oliveira. But I kind of think that that's not going to be the case this time for Virna Jandiroba. Now, at the end of the day, I'm not the girl. I don't know. I think she might play in the guard a lot more than she did before, though, because she's the much better wrestler here. Way better than Mackenzie Dern, right? Both defensively and offensively. So I think she can dictate where the fight will take place. But the issue is, I think if she does that, I think she's going to get reversed by Mackenzie Dern. I think Mackenzie Dern can sweep her. I think Mackenzie Dern can catch her in an armbar. And I don't think she'll finish the armbar, but I think she'll be able to use it to reverse and gain top position. She does this against some very good grapplers. You know, she did it against Lupi where she won the round from an armbar attempt. She was in top position, albeit, but she did pull armbar. And she won the round there because, you know, she was holding onto the armbar with one hand, punching her with the other hand. So she still won the round, even though she didn't get the armbar. You know, from the armbar, won her the round to some degree. She was kind of winning before that, I guess, if she took her down. But you get what I'm trying to say. Mackenzie Dern is very dangerous from the bottom position as well as the top position. Amanda Ribas is another one. You know, Amanda Ribas took her down in a second fight. And her sweeps, her triangle armbar series from the bottom, the way she can create distance, the way she can latch onto any leg, limb, arm, neck, whatever it is, from bottom position and create an attack of her own from that is very, very high level. And I kind of feel like Virna Jandiroba might be able to get some top time here. But this is a 25-minute fight, man. And I think, you know, multiple times in this fight, Virna Jandiroba will find herself losing the scramble battle, will find herself getting swept, and will find herself getting put in dangerous submissions or even reversed if she decides to go the wrestling path with Mackenzie Dern. That's my opinion, right? I do think that you can stay safe in Mackenzie's guard. Amanda Ribas has done it before. Amanda Lemos done it at one point. You know, you can do it. Lupi Godinez did it because she didn't get armbarred, right? So you can do it. But I think in a 25-minute fight, maybe sometimes you'll do it, but sometimes you'll get reversed. And the issue is the danger factor is massive if you do get swept, if you do get reversed, if you do end up on bottom, or if you do end up in a submission. The danger factor is massive. Whereas if you're in top control, you ain't really going to danger Mackenzie Dern. You might land a couple of shots, but it's not like you're going to be passing her guard, brutalizing her from top position. So I think it's a tricky game for Virna Jandiroba. What is she going to do? What game plan is she going to do? Her game plan in the first fight was clearly to just strike with her, but she kind of got outstruck. She made it close, but she kind of got outstruck. And I feel like on the feet, she's going to get outstruck again because I think Mackenzie Dern has turned into a better striker than Virna Jandiroba. I think she's way heavier-handed. And the issue with Virna Jandiroba is she's a little bit chinny. You know, she got rocked by Mackenzie Dern in that fight, and I think she can get rocked again in this fight. And I'm kind of predicting her to get rocked, to be honest. Even though it's, you know, a woman's strawweight fight, I kind of feel like she will get hurt at some point. So I'm going to side with Mackenzie Dern here. Like I said, I think Virna Jandiroba is an elite fighter. I think Virna Jandiroba will have the chance to decide where the fight goes. I think she can win minutes on top. I think she can win on the feet at times. But I think over the 25-minute distance, right, or even the 15, 20-minute distance, depending on how long it goes, I think the danger factor on the feet is all Mackenzie Dern. I think the danger factor on the ground is all Mackenzie Dern. And the big thing to me here is that Virna Jandiroba beats fighters by taking them down, out-grappling them. I don't think she can do that against Mackenzie Dern. Like I said, she can do it for a minute or two, but I think she's going to get swept, reversed, etc. So she can't do what she does best and what she's literally done to win basically all her fights in the UFC. She's not going to be able to do that here. Whereas Mackenzie Dern doesn't have to submit you to win. You know, she can just put you in tight attempts. She can out-scramble you. She can sweep you. I think she can do that in this fight. Mackenzie Dern has won fights on the feet. She was beating Angela Hill on the feet. She beat Virna Jandiroba on the feet, right? And I think she can do it here again. So I feel like Mackenzie Dern has more ways to win. And the way that Virna Jandiroba usually wins is not going to be on the table here, in my opinion. So for that reason, I'm picking Mackenzie Dern in this fight. And she's the underdog right now. I'm going to see where the line goes, boys. I may even make a bet on Mackenzie Dern. I think it's going to be a close fight, but I believe that she's got better cardio, more danger. Like I said, I'm not going to repeat myself. I think she grits out a win here. TKO, submission, decision, I don't know. I don't care. I'm picking Mackenzie Dern money line. In the next fight of the night, we have Umar Nurmagomedov taking on Mario Bautista. Umar Nurmagomedov, 18 wins, only one loss, that lone loss to Merab Dvalishvili. Mario Bautista coming into this fight with a record of 16 wins and only 2 losses. So one of the best fights on the entire card. You could argue the highest level fight on the entire card. I mean, Tom Aspinall will have something to say about that, but it's definitely up there, first, if not second. Currently, they have Umar Nurmagomedov as one of the biggest favorites on the entire card. I'm going to check for you now. It's, joint second biggest favorite on the entire card at minus 420, with the underdog price tag on Mario Bautista coming back at plus 320. So very good fight here, boys. Extremely good fight, boys. I cannot wait for this fight. Boys and girls, 1% of my audience are girls, shout out to you. I just feel like this fight is a bad style matchup for someone like Mario Bautista. You know, that's basically what I come away from tape believing. Umar Nurmagomedov is one of the greatest fighters that the UFC has today. Let's not make no mistake about it. Let's not remember a couple of moments in the Merab fight and kind of clown him for it. Umar Nurmagomedov had an argument to win the fight against Merab Dvalishvili. Merab won round 5 off of about a 10-second sequence with 40 seconds left in the round. I thought he was losing the fight. 40 seconds left of a 25-minute fight, and I had the fight won by Umar Nurmagomedov. Then Merab catches Umar with a big shot, wobbles him slightly, doesn't drop him, wobbles him slightly. He poses to the crowd, he points at the crowd, he does some showboating, then he goes in for a takedown single, throws him on the ground, doesn't control him, doesn't even take him down really, just throws him down, then looks around, points at the crowd again, and that won him the fight. Well done, he landed the shot that won him the fight, but in reality, I felt like Umar could have got that decision if it wasn't for that shot. And even with that shot, it was still a very close round, that 5th round, right? And Umar clearly won rounds 1 and round 2. There was a big skill gap in that fight. He lost round 3, 4, 5, whatever, but it was extremely close. I don't think Mario Bautista's on that level. I think that, like, if it was a 3-round fight like this fight was, Umar would have beat Merab, and maybe it would have been a different fight. It was a 3-round fight, but if it was a 3-round fight, he still would have won in that circumstance, right? Mario Bautista's going to have to put the pace on Umar, going to have to get him tired, going to have to put the pressure on Umar. He ain't got the skills to do it, in my opinion. I love Mario Bautista, man. Great fight. I've made a lot of money on him. I bet him against Patchy Mix last time off at a plus 150 underdog. Everyone laughs at Patchy Mix now, but coming into that fight, Patchy Mix was a big favorite against Mario Bautista. He was known as one of the best fighters in the entire planet, Patchy Mix. And we ended up betting against him, right? So I like Mario Bautista. I've always liked him. He's a great fighter. I just feel like he's levels or at least a level below Nurmagomedov here. Umar has great kicks, great head kicks, great body kicks, great footwork. Mario Bautista has to box you up, pressure you, clinch you up, outpace you, out-scramble you. It's not going to happen here, man. I think Umar can take Mario down and get the back and kill time. I think Umar can actually win on the feet or the wrestling or the striking. I think he's a better striker. I think he's a better grappler. And I think he's a better wrestler. I think he's better in all realms of mixed martial arts. And that's why I think he's going to win the fight. He came to the UAE 1 month ago, so he's going to be fully acclimatized, especially after the Merab fight. You know, I know in the Khabib camp, there was a lot of talk about conditioning. There was a lot of talk about just getting better from that Merab loss, you know, and the Paul Hughes versus Usman first fight. I feel like we saw improvements in the Paul Hughes-Usman second fight from Usman, specifically in the cardio and stopping some of the body work and not letting it affect him. And I think we're going to see improvements in the cardio of Umar here. Not that he will even need it. It's a 3-round fight, but I do think we will see them. I think it's a 30-27 or a submission rear naked choke win from Umar Nurmagomedov. I think it's a confident win here. Mario's a great fighter, but I don't think he's on a level of Umar Nurmagomedov, man. So that's it. I'm picking Umar moneyline here. In the next fight of the night, we have Aleksandar Volkov taking on Jailton Almeida. Aleksandar Volkov coming into this fight with a record of 38 wins, 11 losses. Jailton Almeida, on the other hand, 22 wins and only 3 losses. Currently, they have Jailton Almeida a -155 favorite with the underdog price tag on Aleksandar Volkov coming back at +135. Man, this is a great fight. This is such a great fight and a very interesting fight as well. One of the most intriguing fights on the card, in my opinion. Jailton Almeida is always in classics outside of that Derek Lewis fight. I was definitely heavily leaning to Aleksandar Volkov before I watched tape. You know, when I saw the odds, when I saw the fight was announced, I was like, yeah, I'm going to smash Volkov here. But that's why tape is so important, because after watching tape, I kind of fell back in love with Jailton Almeida's wrestling and his jiu-jitsu, because it's very, very high level. He makes mistakes, don't get me wrong. He fell off the top of Derek Lewis, looked pretty bad there. And he's made mistakes in other fights as well, of course. You know, the Curtis Blades one was pretty poor, but for the most part, he's kind of been flawless. He's extremely athletic, extremely strong. Funny story about Jailton Almeida. I actually walked past him in the UFC PI in the hallway. It was just me and him. I looked at him, I was like, oh shit, that's Jailton Almeida. I thought that in my head, you know. Massive guy, by the way, huge, even bigger than he looks on TV. And I was like, what's going on, mate? You all right? And he responded to me by not saying hello or whatnot, but he just went, He just grunted. He grunted and I was like, fair enough, bro. I just carried on walking past. So shout out to Jailton Almeida. I don't know, maybe he was just in a bad mood then, but he looked like he was in a bad mood because he was beating the hell out of his training partner. A little bit later on in that day, I got to watch him compete. I got to watch him spar there a little bit. I mean, he was on the other end of the PI. So yeah, he's a great fighter. Very good wrestler, very good grappler, kind of a good striker as well, you know. When he first came into the UFC, I thought, this guy's probably got no striking, because he never really showed it. He had a front kick and that's it. But man, seeing him in the UFC multiple occasions now, he's actually not a bad striker. He was cracking Curtis Blades with some big shots. He hurt Sergey Spivak badly right before he finished him, right? And that was a very, very great boxing combination. He kicked Derek Lewis in the head about 10, 15 seconds into the fight, and then he shot him for a takedown. So, I mean, this guy is actually looking clean on the feet. It's crazy to say that, but do the tape yourself. You know, he's looking clean on the feet. The thing I don't like about Jailton Almeida, I don't think he likes getting hit. I don't think he likes getting hit. When he gets in some adversity, he looks not necessarily to quit, but he starts to doubt himself heavily and fast. And that's not a good thing. There's been a couple fights of Jailton Almeida where I just don't, like, it's shown me that I can't necessarily trust him when the going gets tough. Look, it's not like every time the going gets tough, he quits. Like I said, I believe it was the 3rd round. He dropped off Derek Lewis's back. Derek Lewis was landing absolute hammers from top position. And, you know, he weathered the storm. He ended up getting a takedown back on Derek Lewis there. And he has gone 5 rounds against Derek Lewis. You know, it wasn't that hard fight for him because Derek Lewis basically kept easily getting taken down. But to be honest, Derek kept getting back up to his feet in that fight. You know, he kept getting back up to his feet multiple times, and Jailton wasn't dissuaded. He kept shooting for takedowns. He kept taking him down. He kept going to full mount. It was kind of surprising he wasn't able to finish him in that fight, but he has gone through adversity is what I'm trying to say. But I think Volkov is the guy when the going gets tough who I'm going to trust, right? Volkov, on the other hand, he's had a lot of issues in the grappling in his career. You know, he got taken down about 12 times by Curtis Blades. I don't even know what it is. I didn't watch it back in preparation for this fight because I believe he's got way better at defending the takedowns in this fight. If you go and look at the Alexander Romanov fight, Romanov was deep on a single leg at one point in that fight. And Aleksandar Volkov stayed strong, stayed solid, put his weight all on him, was very heavy, and ended up getting a first round finish, ended up melting him, throwing big shots to the body, big shots to the head, ended up finishing from top position himself from the back. And I think after the Curtis Blades fight, it was after the Curtis Blades fight, Volkov noticeably put on size, right? He put on about 20 pounds, and it looked like 20 pounds of muscle, honestly. It was probably like 15 pounds of muscle. He's a very big guy, and obviously a bit of fat as well. And he just completely changed his physique and his strength, physicality, and his wrestling defense. I still feel like his wrestling defense is not great. If you go back to his last fight against Cyril Gane, and like I said, in that fight, I believe that Volkov won cleanly, but he was taken down by Cyril Gane multiple times. He was put in a semi-submission attempt with the Kimura. It was never tight, but it was a submission lock. Cyril Gane did jump down for a leg at one point. I just still feel like Volkov has vulnerabilities in the grappling. Cyril Gane got 3 or 4 or 5 minutes of control time in that fight as well. I mean, these are things that you don't love to see when you're fighting someone like Jailton Almeida, who's probably the best wrestler grappler in the entire division by far. So it's a very close fight for me, boys, you know. I was leaning heavily towards Aleksandar Volkov before. I'm gonna still pick him, but I could easily see Jailton Almeida going out there and choking him out in round 1. I really could, you know. The level in the grappling and the wrestling may just be too much for Aleksandar Volkov here. But at the end of the day, I have to favor Aleksandar Volkov if the fight goes into round 2 or round 3. I have to favor Aleksandar Volkov even, you know, to get a finish on the feet early. But this is a tough one for me, boys. I want to flip to Jailton Almeida, to be honest. Oh, do I want to flip to Jailton Almeida? See, this is the tough thing about gambling, because a pure pick versus gambling is two completely different things. Please listen to me clearly here, boys, because I know that a lot of you don't understand sports betting, and that's fine. I'm not saying that as a derogatory thing. I'm saying that because you're not a professional sports bettor. You don't have a full-time income from betting on sports. It means you don't understand it, right? So, for the most part, right? So, a lot of people here think that whoever you pick is who you bet on, right? If I pick this guy to win, I bet on him. No, we don't bet on our picks, right? Sometimes we bet against our picks, because all we need to do is bet where the value is, right? That's how professional sports bettors work. We don't pick who we think's going to win. We pick where we believe value is. The way to determine value is you have to think in percentages. Think in percentages, guys. What I mean by that, every single betting odds has a percentage, an implied win percentage behind that line, right? So minus 150 says that fighter is going to win 60% of the time. If you want to know this yourself, you can go to an implied probability calculator and you type in minus 150, and you will see it will come up with a percentage, and it will come up with 60%. And if you think that the fighter or your selection or the team wins more often than the percentage shown, then you should bet on that odds. That's how you make money from sports betting, boys. I just gave you the ultimate jewel right there. So going back to this fight, I kind of feel like it's a 50-50 fight, right? I lean Jailton Almeida maybe 55%, but right now the bookies are saying he's about 62%, right? And I definitely don't agree with that. So I'm going to pick Aleksandar Volkov because I'm going to pick the value side, but I'm actually predicting Jailton to win. So I hope you understand that, boys. But whatever. I'm going to ride with the guy who I think has value, and that is Aleksandar Volkov. But what a good fight. What an intriguing fight. In the next fight on the card, we have Alexander Rakic taking on Azamat Murzakanov. Alexander Rakic coming into this fight with a record of 14 wins, 5 losses. Azamat Murzakanov, on the other hand, 15 wins and no losses. What a shiny record. One of the only undefeated fighters on the entire card. In fact, he is the only undefeated fighter on this card. Currently, they have Alexander Rakic, very, very slight favorite at minus 115, with the underdog price tag on Azamat Murzakanov coming back at minus 105. Here we are again, another minus 115 versus minus 105. Another very close fight, another basically pick 'em. Another fight where the bookies are saying, I don't know, you choose, because we don't know who's going to win the fight. And I kind of lean that way as well. Remember, I didn't lean that way on the other pick'em fight, which was Dern and Jandiroba. I told you, not a clear winner, but I told you a winner in that one. This one, oh, boys, it's really hard. Don't do this to me. I don't want to pick a winner. Oh, man, let's get into the breakdown. Azamat Murzakanov is a very interesting fighter to me. You know, some fights he looks like he's getting pieced up, and then he lands an absolute Hail Mary. One thing I noticed during tape study about Azamat Murzakanov is this guy hurts everybody, man. Even in rounds that he doesn't finish them in, he just hurts them, man. Devin Clark fight, round 2, he hurt him badly. Round 3, he hurt him badly again and actually finished him. Beautiful body shot before the finish in round 3, by the way. Shout out to that body shot because that was spectacular. Dustin Jacoby, you know, he hurt him twice badly in that fight, wasn't able to get the finish. Every other fight in the UFC, he got the finish, so he obviously hurt them, right? So what I'm trying to say is, even if he's not finishing you, he's still hurting you multiple times. He's still close to finishing you. And even if he's losing a round, he could probably still hurt you in that round, right? So this guy's extremely dangerous, but what he doesn't have is great optics on the feet. What he doesn't have is great cardio. What I'm not 100% sure about is his durability. And what he doesn't have is great experience going in long fights against the top of the division. I mean, at the end of the day, his level of competition in the UFC has been extremely poor, you know, and that's kind of what makes me very hesitant to pick him in this spot, is just because it's a big step up in competition. I don't think Rakic is the best fighter of all time. Maybe he's on a downslide at the moment, but at the end of the day, he's been fighting the best of the best, man. Aleksandar Rakic's recent record is not good, right? It's a loss to Jan Blachowicz via leg injury, where he won round 2 and lost round 3. By the way, he lost round 3 because the fight was finished, then his leg just went. It is what it is. Blachowicz was landing some good leg kicks, but anyway, he lost that fight, right? But Jan was one of the best fighters of the last 5 years, of the last 10 years in that division. Sorry, 5 years. The last 5 years in that division. You know, about 5 years ago, Jan was the best fighter in the division. He was a champion, right? So Jan's a very good fighter and a very good striker specifically. The next fight he fought was against Jiri Prochazka, and he was performing pretty well in that fight. But Jiri went Super Saiyan mode in round 2, like he always does in round 2 or round 3, like he did against Khalil the other day. What an insane round, by the way, boys. Yes, I earn a full-time living from betting on MMA, right? But I am a fan first. And man, that round 3 was amazing. I just wanted to do a little bit of a cutscene for that one. But let's get back to the breakdown. Jiri put the pace on Rakic and he finished him. It is what it is. You can get finished by Jiri. He was looking good up until then. He was looking amazing, to be honest, at times, you know, before the tides turn. And then in his last fight against Magomed Ankalaev, it was a fairly close fight. You know, Rakic performed decent in that fight. Rakic won round 1 on all 3 judges' scorecards, and then round 2 and round 3, Ankalaev started to pull away. You know, Ankalaev's boxing was too much there. The left hand from southpaw was too much there. That left straight he was landing at will the entire fight, basically. Rakic landed a good head kick in there as well, and he does have some good head kicks, and I'm excited to see his head kicks in this fight because I feel like on the much shorter man, and we'll speak about that in a minute, that could play a big part. But what I was trying to say is that Aleksandar Rakic has fought the best of the best of the best, right? Ankalaev, literally the last champion. Jiri Prochazka, the champion before that. And then Jan Blachowicz, the champion before the one before that, right? So give him a bit of slack, Aleksandar Rakic. I know he hasn't looked amazing lately, but he ain't just out there losing rounds completely. He won a round off Magomed Ankalaev. He won round 1 against Jiri Prochazka. He won round 2 against Jan Blachowicz. So like this guy's winning rounds in every single fight that he's ever fought, even in fights that he's getting finished in. So cut him some slack. Cut him some slack is what I'm trying to say. Maybe he comes back now after losing 3 in a row. Maybe he's underrated because he's lost 3 in a row, and maybe he comes back and goes back to vintage form and gets a head kick knockout like he did against Jimmy Manuwa or something like that. Speaking about the head kick knockout, I want to mention this, boys. Massive, massive size advantage for Aleksandar Rakic in this fight. That's no shock because Azamat Murzakanov is always in a size disadvantage, no matter who he fights. So it's not like there's something new that Azamat Murzakanov has to worry about, right? But it still doesn't mean we just completely ignore it. It still could be a big factor in the fight. Rakic has very good head kicks. He's pretty good at keeping distance. And I feel like against someone who's much smaller, I think he's going to be even better keeping distance. And I think the head kick's going to be even more likely to land. You know, he threw a very good head kick and semi-landed on Magomed Ankalaev. And Ankalaev is so much taller than someone like Murzakanov. It's going to be easy for Rakic to throw his leg up there and just touch Murzakanov on the chin. One thing I've noticed in a couple of the round 3s that Murzakanov has been in is he's faded, you know. The Jacoby round 3 was pretty alarming. You know, he clearly lost round 3 to me. He was getting beat up in that fight. He was getting walked down. He was shooting very, very lazy shots because he was tired and he wanted to offset the pressure. He was getting tagged up. His body language was poor. His optics were poor. His chin even looked a little bit shaky. You know, he was getting cleanly clocked at times. Yeah, I mean, I don't think this guy has the best cardio. He's very dangerous, though. He's extremely explosive. One thing I do think is that the southpaw left straight from Murzakanov is going to be landing here for sure. And I just don't know if Rakic can take the power. If Rakic can take the power, he's going to win this fight. You know, I think he's going to win this fight. But Murzakanov so dangerous, it's really annoying to pick against him. But I am going to pick Rakic here, boys. I've decided I'm going to pick Rakic because I think he might be a little bit underrated, coming off 3 losses to 3 of the best in the division over the last 5 years. I think that the height discrepancy could be big with the head kicks. I think that Murzakanov taking a massive step up in competition, and conversely, Rakic taking a big step down in competition could be big in this fight. I think the cardio could be big in this fight. I think, you know, the experience against the better UFC competition could be big in this fight. And at the end of the day, man, Murzakanov loses most minutes outside of when he's hurting his opponents, really. So I kind of feel like Rakic is going to win the minutes. He's going to land better kicks from the outside. Rakic doesn't stand in front of you either. And I don't think Murzakanov has the pressure to draw out the attacks like Ankalaev was able to do in their fight. You know, he's landing the straight 1-2, the left hand. But I don't think Murzakanov's more of like he jumps into his shots. You know, he needs to cover more distance. And he's very fast and accurate with it. But I feel like that's an easier style for Rakic to deal with, or at least to get hit less by. But if he does get hit by it, it's going to be way more devastating than getting hit by someone like Ankalaev. But at the end of the day, man, it's not like Rakic has ever shown like a really bad chin or anything. So yeah, I'm going to pick Rakic in this one, boys. Very good fight, though. Very interested to see it play out. Will I bet? I don't know. But yeah, Rakic is my pick. All right, lads. Now it's come time for the Wheel of Fortune. It's where I give you and anybody watching this a chance to join my Elite Zone, my VIP service, where I help you make money from betting on MMA, just like I've been doing for the last 10 years. Boys, MMA betting has literally changed my life. I can help you do the same by betting on the sport in the lucrative Elite Zone. All you need to do is leave a good comment down below. And next week, I'm going to go through the comments and pick somebody out to join my service for 1 month for free. So we're going to spin the lucrative Wheel of Fortune now. And boys, we're going to see who won it this week. So here we go. It's spinning, lads. Good luck. Good luck to whoever is here this week. All right, lads, slowing down now, lads. And here we are. There we go. Bets. It's Chut Bets. Congratulations, Chut Bets. You just won yourself 1 month free in the lucrative MMA Elite Zone. We're about to make your bank zone rating down below. Check the description down below, and you'll find out exactly how you can join. Boys, if you didn't win today, don't worry. You can still sign up for my service right now. The link is in the description. It's sublaunch.com/lucrative MMA. Just go to the link in the description, click it, and you can join. You're going to get my long shot props, long shot parlays. You're going to get me telling you exactly what bets to place, exactly the bets I place, so you can copy and paste my bets and bet on the same bets that have made me financially free from MMA betting. We're up over 150 units this year. It's been a crazy year, boys. And if you want to hop on the hot streak, you can do it. But yeah, going back to the fights, boys, we have Mateusz Rębecki taking on Ľudovít Klein in the next fight. Mateusz Rębecki coming into this fight with a record of 20 wins and 3 losses. Ľudovít Klein, on the other hand, 23 wins, 5 losses, and 1 draw. Currently, they have Ľudovít Klein as a -135 favorite, with the underdog price tag on Mateusz Rębecki coming back at +115. Yeah, this is an interesting fight, boys. It should be a banger. I mean, every Mateusz Rębecki fight is a banger. He's currently got the fight of the year in the UFC against my boy Chris Duncan. Chris Duncan went to war with Rębecki and took him to the trenches and won. I watched that fight in person. It was one of the best days of my life, honestly. I was out in Las Vegas to support my man Chris Duncan with my man Zar, and we both watched that fight in the Apex, one of the best fights I've ever seen. And you know, I was lucky enough to be there live. We then linked up with Chris a couple of days after the fight. We did the interview. In the interview, we did in my Rolls Royce, and he called out Terrence McKinney, and then we put it all over social media. We got the entire lucrative squad to tag all the UFC matchmakers. We got it plastered all over Twitter. Ariel Helwani heard about the shout out, said it on his show, and then they just announced Terrence McKinney versus Chris Duncan recently. So I know they was scheduled to fight before, but I kind of feel like we was massively involved in making that fight. So shout out to everyone in the lucrative squad. Shout out to all of you guys, because we made that one happen. I can't wait to watch that fight. Obviously, I'm going to be rooting for my man Chris Duncan again. But going back to this fight, he went to war with Chris Duncan, man. And he's coming back not long after that fight, right? Like, Chris is fighting in December. That's a big difference from October, middle of October, right? I don't know if Rębecki is going to come back here and look 100%. I mean, Rębecki has been in so many wars, and he just went into another war with Chris Duncan. I have to believe that he's not going to come back here looking his best. And he's the worst striker in this matchup. Ľudovít Klein is a better striker, way cleaner on the feet than him, big head kicks. I could honestly see Ľudovít Klein knocking Rębecki out here. I really could. I mean, it's a minor miracle that Rębecki hasn't been knocked out more than he has. Obviously, Ferreira got him, but that was more of a cardio thing. But still, it's kind of a minor miracle. He didn't get knocked out by Chris Duncan. He didn't get finished in even a couple of these other fights where he's really gone to war. The Oralbai fight was absolutely crazy. He could have been finished in that fight. I think his time might come here. I think his time might come to be finished. I mean, he's going back into the octagon, in my opinion, way too soon after that beating that he took from Chris. So, yeah, man, it's a tough ask for Rębecki, but obviously he's such a beast. He can win the fight. I think his best path to victory, and almost his only path to victory, outside of like a random knockout, and he hasn't really done it in the UFC too much, would be the wrestling path. But I don't know if he has enough wrestling to take down Ľudovít Klein. If you go back and look at Ľudovít Klein's career, yes, he's got grappled by Mateusz Gamrot, but that's a very specific style of wrestling and grappling. Mateusz Rębecki doesn't have that in his arsenal, in my opinion. He definitely doesn't have the grappling prowess of someone like Gamrot, and he doesn't have the specific single leg takedowns at all. He's more of a bull, he's more of a hoss. I don't think that Rębecki is going to be able to wet blanket Ľudovít Klein for 3 rounds. Yeah, he might take him down a couple of times, but I think Ľudovít Klein's going to be able to get back up to his feet and land big damage here. I think the body shots are going to add up. And like I said, man, the difference on the feet is big here. I think Ľudovít Klein head kick knockout. I really do, man. Body shots are going to add up, and when the hands drop, the head kick is coming. So yeah, I'm picking Ľudovít Klein to win this one via KO. The next fight on the card is Ikram Aliskerov versus Jun-Young Park. Ikram coming into this fight with a record of 16 wins, 2 losses. Jun-Young Park, on the other hand, 19 wins and 6 losses. Currently, they have Ikram as a big favourite, minus 270 odds, with the underdog price tag on Jun-Young Park coming back at plus 230. Interesting fight here for me, boys. Very interesting fight. The reason it's an interesting fight is because I look at everything through a betting angle, right? To make money on sports betting, we look at things for a betting angle, not on who we think's going to win. If you don't understand that, you can listen to my YouTube videos over the next 6 months. You can go back and watch my old sports betting YouTube videos on this very YouTube channel to teach you how to bet on sports betting for a full-time job, right? I tell you everything. So I'm not going to go into it in depth here, but what I will say is that we look at the odds. We look at the betting odds. We look at where the value is. We look at what is worth it. Now, I think Ikram is going to win this fight. That is my pick. But I don't know if there's any value on Ikram at minus 270. I'm going to tell you why. Jun-Young Park is a tough operator, right? Jun-Young Park gets hit clean. He gets taken down pretty easily. But he has elite cardio, very, very high level tenacity, a will to win, and honestly, his best attribute is literally his cardio. The guy doesn't stop moving forward. His pace and his pressure is elite. The boxing is pretty solid, very good boxing, good 1-2s, good jabs down the middle, hard jabs. He doesn't have much power, but his pace and pressure can get to you, man, and it's a very hard style to deal with. When he starts snowballing, he doesn't let you off, and he's very good from top position. We see that in multiple fights. The Brad Tavares fight, when he finally got him down, he looked dominant from top position. A Tafon Chukwi fight, we remember that from back in the day. He looked dominant from top position. If you go back to the Dennis Tululam fight, he ran him over from top position. So Jun-Young Park, the Iron Turtle, is a very, very good fighter when he gets going. It's just sometimes you can crack him early. Sometimes you can put him off his game. Sometimes you can break his pressure and rhythm with takedowns like Andre Muniz did, taking him down about 7 times in that fight. He's the type of fighter where you really need to read his matchup well in order to know if he's going to win the fight. And what I mean by that is, do you think his opponent has enough power to stop his forward pace, forward rhythm? Because if so, Jun-Young Park walks onto punches, man. And he's got a good chin, but he's not got the best chin of all time. He was knocked out brutally by Gregory Rodriguez in a fight that we cashed on G-Rod in. He almost knocked out before that, and then he knocked him out. So if you've got big power like that, you can crack him. I don't think he has the best chin of all time. Brad Tavares actually dropped him, and Brad doesn't really have that much power. Like I said, it's not about not having a good chin, actually. Let me rephrase that. It's that he doesn't have the best striking defense. He moves his head a little bit, but he kind of walks forward into range. So if your opponent has power, or if his opponent has power, he's always going to be at danger of getting hit, dropped, wobbled, something like that. And that's what happened in the Brad Tavares fight. He should have really won round 1. He had more pace and pressure and volume, but he got dropped, so he lost that round. And then the second part is, does the opponent have any wrestling? Because like I said, Muniz got what was it, 12 takedowns, 8 takedowns, whatever it was. It was a lot of takedowns. I think it was double digit, to be honest. And Eric Anders even took him down multiple times back in the day. So the guy has bad takedown defense and he walks onto punches, right? So if his opponent has good takedowns and heavy power, he's kind of effed. And to be honest, that is basically all that Ikram Aliskerov has. You know, like, what does Ikram have? He has big power early and he has very good wrestling. That's really it, you know? So I kind of feel like Ikram's a bad stylistic matchup for Jun-Young Park. But at the same time, I just feel like Jun-Young Park has got way more UFC level experience. I think Jun-Young Park's at a big cardio advantage here. I think Jun-Young Park has better boxing fundamentals than Ikram Aliskerov. And I think that his pace and pressure, he's going to out-volume him easily here. I just feel like Ikram's going to be able to stop that volume and pace with the takedowns if he needs to. And he's also going to be able to hurt Jun-Young Park. So I'm picking Ikram Aliskerov here. I can't say that there's much value on his money line currently. I'd like to dig into this fight a little bit deeper and actually do more tape study because there is a couple of specific sequences I want to watch. But for now, my pick will be Ikram Aliskerov. In the next fight up, we have Abdul-Kareem Al-Selwady taking on Matheus Camilo. Abdul-Kareem Al-Selwady coming into this fight with a record of 15 wins, 4 losses. Matheus Camilo, on the other hand, a record of 9 wins and 3 losses. Currently, they have this fight at a straight pick'em. Al-Selwady -110, Matheus Camilo -110. This is a good fight, boys. Exciting fight. I'm excited to talk about it. I think Abdul-Kareem Al-Selwady is one of my favorite fighters. Well, let me rephrase that. He's one of my underrated favorite fighters. He's one of my unknown favorite fighters. Like, no one really knows who this guy is. But I like this guy. The reason is because he cashed me a +1,000 decision ticket when he fought George Hardwick on the Contender Series. Won that fight clean. You know, was able to outstrike George Hardwick. It was definitely a close fight. You know, Hardwick was landing some big body kicks, some big head kicks even. But Al-Selwady was good with his jab. He was on the back foot for the majority of the fight, staying on the outside, throwing a couple of kicks, but mainly tagging George with the hand. George was bloodied up at times. He shot multiple takedowns on George, not really committed to any of them. He did get George down at the end of round 3 as well. George was able to get back up to his feet there, but, you know, Al-Selwady finished strong. He was like a +4 or 500 underdog in that spot there. So cashing on him was obviously, it felt very good. George Hardwick was brought in to basically be in the UFC as he was a Cage Warriors champion before that. He actually continued on to be the Cage Warriors champion. After his Dana White's Contender Series fight, he actually lost in his very next fight against the guy who then fought in Dana White's Contender Series against Mando Nallo, where we cashed on Mando Nallo as an underdog as well, and he knocked him out in the first round. But anyway, yeah, MMA roundabouts there, and we're cashing on them all. But yeah, I like Al-Selwady. You know, he performed well in a Dana White's Contender Series fight. I also like him because he won me money in his next fight. In his UFC debut, he fought Loik Radzabanov, and I faded him in that fight. I bet on Loik as a +130 underdog, and Loik knocked him out in round 3. Close fight. Loik almost finished him in round 1. Round 2, Loik kind of gassed out because Loik's extremely muscly, big guy, does gas out consistently in his fights, but he was able to find the finish in round 3. Al-Selwady's a bit chinny, you know, and that is easy to see by looking at his losses. Every single loss has come inside the distance. I believe either 3 out of 4 or 4 out of 4 are via knockout. It could be every fight. And even in some fights where he hasn't been knocked out, he still gets hurt in those fights. You know, we see time and time again, this guy, I don't think he likes getting hit, you know. One thing that Matheus Camilo can do is he can hit you, right? So I expect him to rock Al-Selwady in this fight. I expect him to, you know, maybe finish him, but if he doesn't finish him, I think he's going to hurt him. But Camilo isn't a finished product at all, you know. Camilo has a lot of flaws himself. In his last fight, he was looking extremely dominant against Gabe Green. He did get dropped in the first round. A lot of people are going to forget that. He got dropped with a check hook, but he ate it well. I mean, he got dropped, but after that, he recovered well and he was able to clinch up against the cage and go for his own takedown there. But he did get dropped in the first round, and then in the second round, he got submitted. You know, that was his UFC debut. He was either 23 or 24 years of age then. He's still 24 years of age now. So I feel like he's going to improve from fight to fight, but he's very young. He's still raw. He can be grappled. He can be hurt. He can be dropped. He can be submitted. You can basically beat him any which way. You know, it's going to be tough to beat him via decision. Although I have seen a fight with his on the regional scene where he could have lost via decision. It was a very close fight. It was the fight against Dorokshop Nabatov, and it was a pretty close fight. He got grappled in that fight a lot, and I do think Al-Selwady will come out here with a grappling game plan because he's not going to want to be on the feet with Camilo for extended periods of time. Sure, he can have some success on the feet, but if he stays on the feet for 15 minutes, I think he's getting knocked out, to be honest. So I think he's going to shoot here. He shoots in a lot of his fights. I think he's going to shoot a grappling game plan. I don't know how successful he's going to be with it. Like I said, in that Dorokshop Nabatov fight, Camilo got taken down, grappled, but he also dropped him a couple of times with calf kicks. He also hurt him in that fight on the feet, landed big boxing combinations, and ended up winning the fight, you know? So even if you do grapple him, doesn't mean you're going to win. In the Gabe Green fight, he was the one doing the grappling. You know, he was taking Gabe Green down. He was looking very good in that fight. And then he got Gabe Green in a triangle choke after half mauling him from top position, looking very good on his UFC debut, looking like he had no UFC jitters. And then he got Gabe Green in a triangle choke, which was very close. He put his all into that triangle choke. He didn't submit Gabe Green. Gabe Green got out of it. Literally 60 seconds later, he got rear naked choked. So it looked like to me, he just completely adrenaline dumped. Maybe he thought he had the finish. Maybe he just gassed his legs out from that triangle choke. And then he gave his back up after Gabe Green got out of the choke and then instantly got submitted, you know, and it was a fairly quick tap. You know, it wasn't even that tight, the rear naked choke initially, and it looked like he was going to tap before he actually did tap. So I feel like it was more of a mental thing there, and I guess a physical thing if he cardio dumped that bad. But I think he's going to perform better here. That was his UFC debut at 24 years old. He put on a great performance until he lost. He was winning until he wasn't. So I think we're going to see a better version of Camilo here. And I don't think he's a bum in the grappling. Like I said, he can be taken down. He got taken down on the regional scene by Nabatov for a lot of the fight. He did get submitted by Gabe Green, but there's been other fights on the regional scene where he's defended the takedowns, where he's looked very good, like the Darion Ramos fight. If we look back at that fight, you know, the guy was putting a lot of pressure and pace on him. In the Soho fight as well, it might have been a Soho fight. I watched both of those. I watched all 5 of his last fights, and I'm getting mixed up between the Soho fight and the Ramos fight, but one of those fights, the guy put extreme pressure on him. Actually, this was the Ramos fight. Yeah, the Ramos fight, a lot of pressure on him up against the cage. Camilo looked to potentially be tiring, but then he got a finish, you know. So I think the guy is not just super easy to take down. He's got good jiu-jitsu as well, slick jiu-jitsu. I feel like he will get taken down in this fight, but I feel like he can, you know, maybe throw up a triangle, get back up to his feet. And I just feel like on the feet, man, he's going to put so much pace and pressure. I mean, he fights at a heavy pace, a lot of pressure, and he's got big power. And I just feel like Al-Selwady does not like to get hit, man. Al-Selwady does not like to get hit, and Camilo's going to hit him hard here. I'm predicting Camilo to win this fight, and I'm predicting him to win it via knockout. You know, he was actually an underdog earlier, and I'll be honest with you guys now, I bet him. I bet him at plus 115. I still think there's value at minus 110. I don't know what his price is going to be when his video's out, but me and my VIPs got on at plus 115. So that's a big benefit of being in the VIPs. The VIP is that you get early lines and you get fighters at underdog price tags when they close as favorites. So yes, official prediction: Matheus Camilo gets the win. All right, lads. So I'm in the office and I just got some intel that is a last-minute addition to this fight card. Quillan Salkilld is taking on Nasrat Haqparast. So I'm chiming in from my iPhone to give you a breakdown so we don't miss any fights. Now, obviously, I haven't done any tape study for this fight. It literally just got announced, right? I'm going to give you some off the top of my head thoughts, though. First of all, this is the worst possible circumstances for Quillan Salkilld. He has to fly from Australia all the way to Abu Dhabi on about 9 days' notice to face Nasrat, who's actually already in that region, already training in that region, and he was expecting to fight on this card for a long time. I've checked his Instagram story. You can have a look right now. And look what he says, lads. He's literally saying that this is the 4th opponent change that he's had. So he knew he was going to fight on this card. UFC wanted him to fight on this card. But Quillan, on the other hand, probably didn't know. He probably wanted to fight, but he didn't know about this. So it's going to be tough for Quillan to come in here and perform to the best of his ability. Now, speaking about the actual stylistic matchup, I think Quillan is a better fighter all around, skill for skill. I really do. I do think Nasrat is probably a better striker than him. But in general, in MMA, I feel like Quillan's got a better game. You know, Quillan has an elite pace, great cardio, shoots a lot of takedowns. I will say he did get tired in the 3rd round of his last fight against Yanal Ashmuz, and he got cracked with some big shots there. So I didn't love that he got tired in that fight, but, you know, in his Contender Series fight, he didn't get tired at all. You know, he shot like 30, 40 takedowns. I mean, yeah, he did get tired, but he continued to push through. So I kind of feel like that may be a little bit of an outlier. If he doesn't get tired here, which he might do considering the circumstances, but if he doesn't get tired here, I expect him to pull away a little bit on takedowns and grappling. Now, I'm going to need to do very, very deep research into Nasrat Haqparast takedown defense. I do know that in his fight against Jared Gordon, Jared shot like 14 takedowns and got none. So Nasrat has pretty good takedown defense. But if we remember, go back to his Dan Hooker fight in 2021 or somewhere like that, he got taken down and controlled for 7 minutes of that fight. And he hasn't really fought many wrestlers since then. So I do feel like his takedown defense is looking a little bit better because of the opponents he has fought. And he hasn't fought anyone like a relentless wrestler that Quillan is, right? He hasn't fought anyone. So yeah, I guess at the moment I'm going to pick Quillan Salkilld. I just feel like Nasrat Haqparast hasn't fought this style basically ever before. And the one time he fought someone who's pretty high level, he got grappled by him and he's a striker in Dan Hooker. So I'm going to pick Quillan right now. But it's definitely a close fight, and I do need to do a lot of research for this one, boys. So as always, I just wanted to chime in and give you as much information as possible. But let's get on to the next fights where I have done a lot of research. In the next fight tonight, we have Jose Delgado taking on Nathaniel, the last Kingsman, Wood. Make sure you get it right. Jose Delgado is 10-1. Nathaniel Wood has a good record, 21-6. Currently, they have Jose Delgado as the -145 favorite with the underdog price tag on Nathaniel Wood coming back at +125. So Wood sitting as an underdog again in the featherweight division, moved up in weight class many years ago now. And he's been an underdog in multiple times at this new weight class, namely in his last two fights, or in this fight and his last fight. He had a good performance in his last fight against Morgan Charrier. And I have to say, boys, before I go into this breakdown, Nathaniel Wood is someone who I consider a friend. He's a mate, so I'm not going to really, speak out against him. I'm not going to start speaking all this negative stuff. I'm going to give my breakdown, of course, but I may be a little bit biased. I may be looking at this through a biased lens. So I want to tell you that because I want to announce my bias. So maybe you don't listen to me on this breakdown. Maybe you just take what I say with a grain of salt. But this is going to be a banger of a fight, regardless. Obviously, I'm rooting for Nathan to win, but he's going to have to come through a fire here. He's going to have to come through a storm because Jose Delgado is literally the definition of a storm. I bet on him against Haider Emil last time out, and I mean, that was easy money. The KO in round 1, I mean, the fight didn't even get started. He's done that to a lot of fighters, man. Yeah. I'm not going to go too in-depth on this one because, like I said, I'm a bit biased. Jose Delgado comes out like a bat out of hell, right? Big body kicks, big knees to the head, big knees to the body. He's landed knee to the body, drops. He's knocked people down from that. And he's landed knee to the head knockouts, like his Dana White's Contender Series fight. He beat the hell out of that guy, and then he knocked him out in round 2. He looked to be slowing down in that fight, honestly. And I do have some questions about his cardio. If we go back and look at his fight he lost, it was against Chris. I'm doing this off the top of my head, guys. McCate, something like that. I literally watched that fight yesterday. In that fight, he was taken down, grappled, dominated from top position. He never quit on himself. He did look a bit tired, but he didn't quit on himself, but he did get dominated. Not kind of nearly finished, but there were moments where, he got mounted, pounded out. Some submissions were there. So yeah, he wasn't close to being finished, but he definitely got put in finishing scenarios. But he's an extremely tough guy. He won't quit on himself. And that was his only loss. But he got badly beaten in that fight. That was a clear loss. It wasn't a close fight at all. He just couldn't stop the wrestling. The issue is Nathan's not a wrestler, man. Like, he ain't going to go out there and just take him down multiple times and wet blanket him for 15 minutes like Chris did. He might be able to take him down. I think he will be able to take him down, but will he be able to stay on him for 15 minutes? It's just not his game. His game is not to stay on you for 15 minutes in the grappling. I think for the majority of this fight, it's going to be on the feet. Nathan's a better striker in terms of technicality. He's a bit slicker. His counters are a bit better. But Delgado has big power for the featherweight division. He's a real featherweight. I still don't love Nathan at this weight class, even though he's got a great record at this weight class. I still feel like in some of the fights I'm watching, his opponents look a little bit bigger and more physical and a little bit stronger than him. And, and he has spent moments off his back against fighters like Daniel Pineda. And it seemed like that came from physicality and strength, so I worry about that a little bit. But Delgado's not really going to go out there and shoot multiple takedowns. He can take you down. He got a takedown very early in that fight on his Contender Series fight. He stepped round. But I don't think he's going to be shooting too much here. I think for the majority of the fight, he's going to try and knock Nathan out like he does to everyone, right? So, of course, I'm rooting for Nathan. Of course, I'm picking Nathan here. He's the better striker. And I wouldn't be surprised if he dropped Delgado. In that fight on the regional scene against Chris McCarthy where he lost, he got dropped in that fight, So it wasn't just a wrestler. He actually got dropped at the beginning of round 2. So he's there to be hit, Delgado. He gets tired. Nathan can win this fight for sure. He's an underdog. So as always, boys, my official prediction for this one is going to be Nathaniel Wood to get the win. The next fight on the card, we have Chris Barnett taking on Hamdi Abdel-Wahab. Chris Barnett has a record of 23 wins, 9 losses. Hamdi Abdel-Wahab has a record of 4 wins and 1 loss. Kind of insane that this is like Hamdi's second or third fight in the UFC and the guy is 4-1. It makes almost no sense. Hamdi Abdel-Wahab, a massive favorite at -420 with the underdog price tag on Chris Barnett coming back at +320. So boys, I always try to be as respectful to the fighters as possible, but I still have to give an honest breakdown on their skill set. And if I believe they're not a good boxer, I have to say they are not a good boxer. They have 0 takedown defense. I have to say their takedown defense is terrible. These are just things I have to say. I think Chris Barnett is one of the worst fighters on the roster. There has to be a worse fighter, right? And I think he's one of the worst fighters. So I'm definitely picking Hamdi Abdel-Wahab here. I don't think Hamdi is anything special really himself, but Chris Barnett at this point, man, I mean, yeah, I can't pick him. He's way too undersized for the division. He's absolutely tiny. He's 5'9" at heavyweight. 5'9" is a lightweight. You know, 5'9" is a lightweight or welterweight height. It's insane, to be honest. 5'9" would be an absolute minuscule light heavyweight. 5'9" is a tiny middleweight, right? And this guy's a heavyweight at 5'9". It's almost comedic at times when you see him in the octagon. Hamdi Abdel-Wahab is 6'2". You know, he's a legitimate heavyweight. I think he's got a better jab here. Chris Barnett has basically massive movements. That's all he has. He has a spinning wheel kick. In fact, he got injured in his last fight from throwing the spinning wheel kick. So even one of his best moves, he might even get injured when he throws it, right? He's had lots of bodily injuries, Achilles tears, random other injuries in his legs. I don't know why. Lack of flexibility, too much weight at his height, throwing it about. He's very athletic for his weight, but at the end of the day, man, it's not a good look. You know, it's just not a good look when you see him fight. If he doesn't land a spinning wheel kick or like a Superman punch or a hook over the top, I think Hamdi's going to out-jab him. I think Hamdi can take him down at will. I don't think he's great on the ground. And I just see Hamdi winning the fight. I feel like it's probably a decision, to be honest. It's probably going to be an ugly fight because Hamdi's not that dangerous in and of his own right. I don't think Hamdi has the best chin of all time. Muhammad Usman hurt him in that last fight. But if he comes out anything like he was looking in round 1 of that fight, I think he can just take over this fight and win dominant decision here. Press him up against the cage. Maybe land a finish in round 2 or round 3 when Beast Boy Chris Barnett gets tired. Hamdi Abdel-Wahab is the pick here. Wrestling, boxing, jabs, cardio, age. Chris Barnett's 39, turning 40. Yeah, I mean, all of those reasons are the reasons I'm picking Hamdi Abdel-Wahab to win this fight. Moving on in the card, boys, we have Azat Maksum taking on Mitch Raposo. Azat Maksum coming into this fight with a good record, 15 wins, only 2 losses. Mitch Raposo, on the other hand, 9 wins and 3 losses. Currently, they have Maksum as a -330 favorite with the underdog price tag on Mitch Raposo coming back at +270. So, boys, this is the battle with a split decision. This is the battle of the 50-50 fighters. And what I mean by that is both fighters fight to very close margins. Mitch Raposo got a split decision loss in his last 2 fights against Sumudaji and Andre Lima. Now, I think that those split decisions were very bad scorecards. I don't think Mitch won either of those fights. I think the Andre Lima fight was completely clear loss. I think the Sumudaji fight was a clear loss, although maybe a little bit closer. But there's something to be said that one judge in both of those fights did score the fight for him. So he must be doing something right. He must be making it look close to at least some people. On the other hand, we have Azat Maksum, who's pretty similar. Now, he hasn't gone to split decisions, although in his UFC debut, he did win a split against Tyson Nam. But in his subsequent 2 fights against Tagir Ulanbekov and Charles Johnson, they were unanimous decision losses for him, but they were very close fights. They were 2 fights that he could have won. So he arguably could have lost his first 3 fights and be 0-3, but he arguably could have won his first 3 fights and been 3-0. He fought Tagir Ulanbekov in his last fight as a massive underdog, right? +300, something like that. And he legitimately could have won that fight. It was a very close fight. He arguably won round 1, arguably won round 2 and round 3. You know, you could have give Tagir all 3 rounds as well, to be honest. It was that type of fight. But I think it says a lot about Azat Maksum that he can compete with one of the best fighters in the entire division, Tagir Ulanbekov, and make it a 50-50 fight. I mean, at the end of that fight, you saw Tagir and his team in Islam Makhachev and Khabib give Azat Maksum so much praise after the fight. They knew it was a gritty fight. They knew it was a close fight. And Tagir was not sure he was going to get that decision or not, you know, because you could see the relief on his face when they finally raised his hand and he did get that decision. And you could see the disappointment on Maksum's face because he thought that he genuinely won the fight. And I thought he could have won the fight as well. Tagir couldn't take him down. You know, and Tagir is one of the best wrestlers in the entire division. He tried to take Maxim down multiple times, and Maxim reversed him a couple of times, stopped the takedowns, the others, and actually took Tagir down multiple times with big slams, high amplitude slams. At the end of round 1, I believe it was. The end of round 3, I believe it was. Big body slams. Now, they wasn't, you know, executed perfectly. Tagir is a very good fighter. He was able to post and, you know, stop some of the slam. But at the end of the day, Maxim got some takedowns there against someone who was supposed to go out there, take him down and strangle him. You know, I personally thought Tagir was going to choke him out. So a very good performance by Maxim there. You know, competed well in the boxing, competed well in the striking, and competed extremely well and even won a lot of the grappling positions, which is, it's a massive thing, boys. It's a huge thing. The Charles Johnson fight, he came out looking like a world beater. You know, he knocked Charles Johnson down, got him in a tight front headlock. It was a Dash choke or anaconda. And Charles Johnson was able to grit it out. And he ended up coming back at the end of that round, like winning the last 30 seconds. He still got hurt multiple times after that initial knockdown, though. People might forget that one. He did get knocked down, but he got hurt multiple times in the first round after that. And then in round 2, he started to put the pace and pressure on him. Round 3 ended up winning. But round 2 and round 3 were very close. You know, there wasn't dominant rounds. Charles Johnson at the end of round 3 was able to get a takedown with 10 seconds to go, get top position and land some ground and pound. But I mean, outside of that, they were both very close rounds, you know. So like I said, he conceivably could have won. Now, the Tyson Nam fight is where I look at it and go, all right, maybe there's something wrong with Azamat Maxim, because he's fighting against the best fighters in the division, you know, like Tagir Ulanbekov, you know, and Charles Johnson. Very, very close. But then he's fighting someone like Tyson Nam, who's no longer in the UFC, who's not even UFC level at this point in his career. He's fighting with him to a 50-50 fight, in a fight that he could have lost, in a fight that one judge scored against him. So I think Maxim is one of these guys where he rises to the occasion, but then he drops to the occasion as well, meaning that he fights to his opponent's level. We have fighters sometimes, boys, in MMA, boys and girls, in MMA, right, where they put on great performances against high-level fighters, but then when they face low-level fighters, they put on poor performances. They fight to the level of their competition. They do just enough to win or to lose, right? They never really go out there and put a stamp on the fight. And considering Maxim's first 3 fights in the UFC, I feel like he may be one of those guys. You know, on the regional scene, he was finishing some guys, but he had a lot of decisions as well. So I still don't have a perfect read on Maxim. I think he's a very talented fighter, very good fighter. Arguably beat Tagir Ulanbekov in his last fight, but he arguably lost to Tyson Nam in his debut. So I have to take a step back and go, all right, I don't know if I can fully trust him at a minus 330 price tag because he fights the slim margins. Mitch Raposo, on the other hand, kind of does the same thing. He's got big power, Mitch Raposo, but he's not a good striker. He doesn't have much in the way of kicks. Boxing isn't that good. He's just pretty explosive and good power, good overhands. He's got good wrestling, but when he comes up against UFC level fighters, the wrestling doesn't translate. The Jake Hadley fight back in the day. The Ľudovít Shalinian fight. I think I said that name wrong. The Andre Lima fight. Can't really grapple him. The Sumudaji fight. Takes him down multiple times, but isn't able to get any control. You know, takes him down at the end of round 1, makes it very, very gritty. Takes him down again in round 3, makes it gritty, but isn't able to do any damage, isn't able to control him, isn't able to land his shots on the feet, gets his leg picked apart, and loses a fight fairly cleanly, right? So Mitch is a good fighter in general, like his skill set's decent. I just feel like there's not much outside of power and wrestling and cardio and tenacity, and, you know, that helps win fights. But if the skill level isn't high enough, it doesn't matter how tenacious you are. Most of the time, you're going to lose. I think Maxim is a lot more skillful here than Mitch Raposo. I think he's a better boxer. I think he's a better striker. You know, Maxim's a good boxer himself. He doesn't move his head that much. I'm worried Mitch could catch him with an overhand or leaping in, you know, a hook or something like that. But he is a better boxer, you know, clearly. He has some power of his own. He's got good 1-2s down the middle, good knees, good body kicks, very good anti-grappling, and he has wrestling himself. He could even get a takedown or 2 on Mitch Raposo himself here. So I'm going to pick Maxim for this one. I actually think Maxim could reverse a takedown attempt from Mitch Raposo because Mitch is going to shoot here. Mitch shoots in every fight. But what I saw in the Tagir Ulanbekov fight just tells me that, man, Mitch is probably not going to be able to go out there and grapple him, you know, if someone like Tagir wasn't. And if he's not able to do that, he may get reversed because he's still going to try and grapple him. Mitch grapples in every fight. So Mitch is going to shoot takedowns here, and I could most certainly see Azamat Maxim reversing Mitch, taking his back, or more than likely wrapping up a front choke. I think the Maxim submission prop is live here, even the KO prop, because I feel like he's going to put his hands on him in the boxing, So I think we're going to get big plus money for the under, and I may be looking that way. I don't know what I'm going to do with this fight yet. I'm deciding whether I can trust a minus 330 price tag when the guy goes to lots of very close decisions, and Mitch does too, so we could see a split decision. But this fight is in Abu Dhabi. You would think that they would lean to Azamat Maxim in Abu Dhabi, the judges, but that's obviously not a guarantee. So yeah, I'm going to pick Azamat Maxim for this one. I'm going to pick him via submission. It's going to be a massive ticket. It's probably going to be plus 1,200 or something like that, maybe plus 800. So it's a bit of a long shot, but I will pick that to happen, and I may bet on it myself, but I'm still going to make a decision. But yeah, Maxim is the pick. The next fight on the card, we have Jacqueline Amorim taking on Mizuki Inoue. Jacqueline Amorim coming into this fight with a record of 10 wins, 1 loss. Mizuki Inoue, veteran of MMA. If you don't know, I'm about to tell you. Good record, 15 wins, 6 losses. Currently, they have Jacqueline Amorim as a massive favorite, as usual, minus 450 odds, with the underdog price tag on Mizuki Inoue coming back at plus 350. This is a good fight, boys. I love Jacqueline Amorim. She's a great fighter. I bet on her multiple times, actually faded her in her debut. We bet on Sam Hughes at plus 200 odds. And then I bet on her to finish her last 3 fights, and she did it, So shout out to Jacqueline Amorim, moving into being one of the most profitable fighters of me on the roster already, only after 5 or 6 fights in the UFC. She's a good fighter, man. Jiu-jitsu ace. She was a jiu-jitsu world champion before she even came into the UFC, and we've seen that clearly in the UFC. She's got solid takedowns. It's weird because when I watch her fights, her takedowns look slow. They don't even look that athletic, but she gets everybody down. You look at the Vanessa Demopoulos takedown, it's like she gets to her legs, but it's like it looks like it's not going to be a successful takedown. Then she kind of just turns the corner. And she does that with most of her fighters, to be honest. Yeah, she's a solid fighter. I wouldn't say she's a great wrestler, but it's worked so far, To the eye, it doesn't look that good, but man, she gets everyone down, so I guess there's something to it. She's a very, very good fighter when she gets in top position. Elite, honestly. An elite finisher as well, The way she moves to mount, the way she passes guard, the way she grabs the arm, goes for arm bars, rear naked chokes. She can submit you with a multitude of attacks. I've seen her attack Kimuras before, front straight arm locks. I've seen her take the back. I've seen her get triangles. I've seen her get arm bars. I've seen her get basically, or at least go for almost every submission in the book. She reminds me of Mackenzie Dern to that degree. Maybe Dern is a little bit more. But yeah, she's a very dangerous girl when she gets on top. Mizuki Inoue, on the other hand, is coming back now after a long layoff. Yet again, she hasn't been in the octagon for 25 months. 25 months is a long damn time, boys. A long damn time. And guess what? Her last fight was against Hannah Goldie 25 months ago. Do you want to know her fight before that fight? It was more than 3 years, right? So there's been a 2-year and 1 month gap between this fight and her last fight. And there was a 3-year and 1 month gap between that fight and her fight before that. She's had 2 fights in 5 years, and she has completely lost out on her MMA prime, which is sad to see because she's actually a very solid fighter. I know the odds don't tell the tale, and I know a lot of people watching this video probably won't even know who she is, but she's actually a solid fighter. I think she could have been decent in the division, a lot better than she ever proved. And it's kind of sad to see the last 5 years of her career taken away from her. You might be thinking now, why did she not fight? Well, I'll tell you, it's because of injuries. So she tore her ACL more than once, I believe. She had knee surgery. And while I was scouring the internet, I found a now deleted picture on Instagram. So I'm giving you some solid information here, where she had a patch over her eye. I'm going to show you the photo right now. And I don't know what this injury was for. Like I said, this photo is now deleted from the internet. It was posted August of this year. I don't know what this was for. I'm not sure, what happened. Maybe she had laser eye surgery. Maybe she had something more sinister. It could be anything, right? The only thing I will say, and I don't know if this is connected at all, right? But I went back and watched a fight against Virna Jandiroba a long time ago. And the reason I did that is because Virna's a wrestler and she's going up against a wrestler grappler here. And we're going to get into that. And I'll tell you exactly how she performed in that fight. But one thing I noticed is during that fight, her eye, the same eye that she's covering in that photo, was swelling up dramatically, and it wasn't a good look. She couldn't see out of the eye in the championship rounds. The fight went all 5 rounds, but it really maybe shouldn't have. The fight should have been stopped. Her eye looks terrible, right? I mean, look at this. Look at this. Like, her eye looks terrible here. And it's the same eye that she covered with that patch. So listen, that photo and that fight was 5 years apart, right? So actually more than 5 years apart. It's like 6 or 7. So it could be completely unrelated, but it's just information I saw. It's just information I'm giving you. As always, boys, I try to give you as much information as possible so we can earn as much money together as possible. That's literally my goal of these videos, is to give you as much information as possible and to earn as much money as possible. So I think the injury she had on her eye, on her knee, being out for so long is going to mean that she does not perform to the best of her ability in this fight at all, right? In fact, I'm expecting a much diminished Mizuki Inoue. Honestly, even her fight against Hannah Goldie last time out, I felt like she didn't look that good in that fight. She looked pretty poor, in my opinion. She won it fair and square. She won it clean. But going back and watching that fight, I was a little bit underwhelmed because Mizuki's a better fighter than Hannah Goldie, and she's a lot better than she showed in that fight. But I think, 3 years out of the octagon at that point after a Amanda Lemos fight, coming back from those knee injuries, she just didn't look the same fighter to me. So I don't think she's going to look the same fighter here. I think Jacqueline Amorim is going to get an early takedown in this fight. This is because of the knee injuries, because of everything, because she's a good wrestler, she's a decent one. Now, here is where it gets tricky for me. Is she going to finish Mizuki Inoue? Mizuki Inoue, one of the toughest girls I've ever seen in women's MMA. This girl is a very, very tough woman. She went the 15-minute decision with Amanda Lemos, which back in 2020 wasn't easy to do. That was when Amanda Lemos was tearing through the division. She dropped Mizuki in that fight, landed massive body shots in that fight, yet still couldn't finish her. Back in the day, she fought Virna Jandiroba, who is an out-and-out finisher. She went 5 rounds with her. She got completely grapple fucked. And this is kind of what made me think, 1, Jacqueline will win the fight. But 2, Jacqueline might not be able to finish her because Virna Jandiroba was never close to a finish in that fight. She bust her up bad. She hurt her eye bad. She took her back multiple times, but she was never like super close to a finish. Mizuki was tough and she got grappled. She lost every round. Mizuki got taken down every round, but she stayed very tough, man. She never stopped. She never quit on herself. She always continued to fight. And so I think we might be looking at a Jacqueline Amorim decision here. We might be looking at a rerun of the Virna Jandiroba fight. Mizuki may even have more success there because I don't think Jacqueline Amorim is as good a wrestler as Virna Jandiroba, and I don't think she has great cardio. I mean, we saw in the Sam Hughes fight, she gassed out completely. Is she going to gas out again here? I don't know. I don't know that. She didn't in the Ruiz fight, but I think Mizuki's better than Ruiz. Is she better with all these injuries? Again, probably, but again, I don't know. But I'm going to pick Jacqueline Amorim. I can't pick Mizuki after everything I've seen in her career getting grappled. Even Amanda Lemos took her down a couple of times, took her down with a trip takedown and got control time, etc., etc. But not only what I've seen in the octagon from Mizuki, but also her injuries. I can't pick her in this fight. I'm picking Jacqueline Amorim here. I'm picking Amorim here, and I might be looking at an over 1.5 rounds. I'm expecting them to set it at 1.5 rounds just because, I mean, she's finished all these girls for the most part under 1.5 rounds in her last 3 fights, right? I think all 3 of her last fights have gone under 1.5. But the 2 before that did go over. So I'm hoping they set it at 1.5 rounds because I think Inoue is tough enough to survive. Now, Jacqueline Amorim can sub anyone, Arguably, the fight against Ruiz and against Sam Hughes could or should or almost did get stopped or finished, so we could be looking at 5 fights that she had in the UFC all go under 1.5. But I think Mizuki's tough enough to lose. So anyway, I'm going to see the odds. I don't know if it's set at 2.5. I ain't going to play over 2.5 because it's too risky, especially with the injuries and stuff. But I'm picking Jacqueline Amorim here. It wouldn't be a confident pick if without all the injuries, but with the injuries, man, it's a fairly confident pick on Jacqueline Amorim. In the next fight, this just got announced today, I think, boys. So unfortunately, I ain't done tape on this one, but I'm going to be quick. I'm going to give you my pre-fight or pre-tape fight thoughts. Walter Walker taking on Louis Sutherland. Walter Walker coming into this fight with a record of 14 wins, 1 loss. Louis Sutherland, on the other hand, 10 wins, 3 losses. Currently, they have Walter Walker as the -350 favorite with the underdog price tag on Louis Sutherland coming back at +285. Yeah, I mean, I ain't going to go too far into this one. I got Walter Walker all day here. He's the bigger man. I think he's going to be able to get takedowns on Louis Sutherland here. Louis Sutherland is serviceable on the feet. He got grapple effed by Slim Trabelsi not too long ago. So I think that the same thing can happen here. I think Volkov can get takedowns when he wants. And at the end of the day, man, Louis Sutherland's probably the type of guy to get heel hooked. I mean, Volkov seems like he can heel hook most of the guys in the division. So that's going to be my quick breakdown. I know Louis Sutherland. I taped him last week when he was meant to fight Tougher, or, a couple of weeks ago. So I know him. And like I said, he got taken down multiple times by a wrestler called Slim Trabelsi, and he lost that fight via decision from the takedown. So I don't see why Walter Walker can't do that here and move to 15-1. My official prediction, Walter Walker wins this fight. That's going to be it from me, boys. Like I said, if you want to sign up and make real money from watching your favorite sport, I help people all over the world do it. All you need to do is click the link in the bio, in the description down below, and that is it. If you subscribe, I will see you in the next video. Good luck, peace and love.